A Useless Life, a story about wisdom and compassion. The old farmer had spent his life tending the same patch of earth, rising before the sun, mending fences before winter winds arrived, and coaxing food from stubborn soil through droughts, storms, and seasons of quiet grace. His body had grown wrinkled and slow, his hands hard as bark, his back bent from decades of plowing. But time eventually claims all bodies, no matter how dutiful. His legs no longer had strength for the fields, and so, by the rhythm of his old age, he took to sitting on the wooden porch where the sunlight could warm his bones. He would sit quietly, sometimes smiling faintly at distant memories, sometimes simply watching the dance of wind through golden grain. The world was still meaningful to him, even if he could no longer take part in it with his body. His son, however, did not see meaning, only burden. Each day when he worked in the field, he saw his father sitting there motionless, neither plowing nor guiding the oxen nor helping with the harvest. Frustration hardened his heart like sun-baked clay. He just sits there, the son thought. He eats, he sleeps, and he watches. What good is he now? That is not life. It is just waiting for death. But time had made the young man blind in a way age never had made his father. He mistook movement for worth. He mistook silence for emptiness. One afternoon, when anger outweighed reason, the son gathered rough timber and built a coffin. Thick boards of pine hammered together with sharp resolve. He dragged it across the yard, the wood scraping across the dirt like a harsh judgment. He stood before his father on the porch. "Get in," he said flatly. The old man looked at the coffin, then at his son's face. There was no struggle, no protest. His expression held neither surprise nor fear, only a deep, quiet knowing. Without a word, he eased himself slowly into the box, as though slipping into a familiar season of life, passing into life. The son nailed down the lid and dragged the coffin through the fields. The journey was long, longer than he expected, and as he pulled, sweat stung his eyes. The old paths, once walked with his father when he was just a child, suddenly seemed heavier than they had in his youth. But still, he dragged the coffin toward the cliff at the far edge of the farm, the edge where earth fell sharply into a wide valley of mist and deep silence. At last, they reached the cliff. The young man wiped his brow and set his feet firmly, ready to tip the box into the void. Then, tap, tap, tap. A gentle sound from inside. Annoyed, he pried open the lid. Inside, the father lay just as the son had left him, hands folded peacefully, eyes soft as a quiet dawn. "I know you are going to throw me over the cliff," the old man said in a calm, almost tender voice. "But before you do, may I make a small suggestion?" The son frowned. "What is it?" The father looked up at him with eyes that held years the boy had never noticed. The weight of knowledge won not by speaking, but by enduring, by loving, by outlasting storms his son had not yet seen. "You may throw me over if you like," the father said gently, "but save this coffin. It is still strong, and wood like this does not come easily. One day when your hair is gray and your back is bent, your children may need it for you." The son froze. The meaning cut through him like a blade, but not a blade of cruelty, a blade of sudden truth. For the first time, he saw his own future in his father's stillness, and he understood the mercilessness he had prepared for his own old age. The wind from the valley rose, cold and living, ruffling his hair. His breath trembled. Shame, sorrow, and awe washed through him all at once. He looked at his father, really looked, and saw not a burden, but the roots of everything he had become. His throat tightened. He helped his father out of the coffin, and with hands shaking not from labor, but from awakening, he lifted the coffin onto his shoulder and dragged it back, not to the cliff, but to the barn where tools and timber were stored. That evening, the old farmer once again sat on the porch. But the son no longer glanced at him with resentment. He glanced with reverence. He now understood usefulness is not measured by hands that work, but by a life that has given and still teaches, even in silence. And from that day forward, the farmer's son found himself looking not ahead with bitterness, but around him with gratitude and forward with humility. Because wisdom, he realized, is not loud. It does not demand attention. It simply waits for someone ready to hear it.